Please say present. Waller?
Present.
Wynant?
Present.
Bradley?
Present.
Wagaman?
Present.
And I am present. So with that, we'll go ahead and start our public hearing. This is a public hearing on the proposed reestablishment and correction of the drainage system records for Ramsey County Ditch 4 under statute section 103E 101 subdivision 4A. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, pursuant to Minnesota statutes 13D 021, meetings of the Board of Managers are currently being convened remotely by teleconference and or video conference. Notice was previously provided with instruction to how to participate in today's hearing. I ask that those of you in attendance remotely mute your microphones until it is your turn to speak. I would like to welcome everyone who is attending the hearing. Under the consideration at today's hearing, it is the reestablishment and correction of the drainage system records for Ramsey County Ditch 4, including defining the alignment, cross-section, profile, hydraulic structure, locations, materials, dimensions, and elevations, and the right-of-way of this public drainage system. The purpose of the hearing is to review the engineer's investigation and report of the findings and receive comment from those affected by the proposed reestablishment and correction of the public drainage record. This is an evidentiary proceeding. The proceedings are being recorded in order to preserve the record. All written comments received in advance of the hearing will be read into the record. The order of business for this hearing will be as follows. First, Mr. Tomsek, the district administrator, will introduce a presentation of information related to the district and its function. Everybody hear me all right? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The district's management of public drainage systems, the engineer's review of the drainage system, and the subsequent actions that may occur following these proceedings. Mr. Tomsek will be assisted by Mr. Kolb, the district's legal counsel, and Mr. Adonis, the district's engineer. Following the staff presentation, I will open the hearing for public comment. The board would like to hear all comments on the proposed reestablishment and the correction of the drainage system records on any information relevant to that purpose. Specifically, the board is interested in whether it is missing information used to define the public drainage system, whether the recommended alignment, grade, or configuration of the ditch creates concerns about loss of drainage benefit, and whether and how lands drain to the public drainage system, whether landowners have concerns or issues associated with the public system crossing their property. Though information will be presented regarding possible future actions, this hearing is not the appropriate time to discuss issues related to possible future action, such as repair of the drainage system. The purpose of this hearing is to review the findings and the evidence regarding the records, defining the alignment, cross-section, profile, hydraulic structure, locations, materials, dimensions, and elevations, or right-of-way of the drainage system or originally constructed or subsequently improved. Other procedures are available for discussion of drainage system repairs, and there will be other opportunities for discussion on outside hearings. During the public hearing, the managers may ask questions of the staff or consultants making presentations or commenters in order to clarify any testimony. In addition, if a member of the public asks a question and a manager believes that a response from the district staff or district consultant can readily resolve the issue, question, or in testimony, the manager may ask me to have the appropriate staff member or consultant speak to the question. I will exercise my judgment as to whether or not to allow discussion. However, managers' expressions of their positions and general discussion concerning the subject of the public hearing should be avoided during the public comment portion of the hearing. Board discussion will occur after all the members of the public have had a chance to speak and the public comment period has closed. Board discussion may occur and be concluded at this or a subsequent meeting as the board decides. Is there any questions from anybody from the board before we begin? Anything from the board? If not, Mr. Tomsek, please go ahead.
Thank you, President Preiner, Board of Managers. I'd ask Mr. Adonis to share his screen for the short presentation, and I will speak to this as clearly as possible so that those listening also understand what's going on. As President Preiner noted, this public hearing is about Ramsey County Ditch 4 and the reestablishment of the public drainage system record. Those listening or attending might recall that the district had an informational meeting on Ramsey County Ditch 4. That was back in January on the 23rd of this year. And our purpose there was to introduce people to the processes that the district has to undertake in regards to its obligations for public drainage system. In here, we are undertaking the first of the statutory requirements. We want to be quite clear about where the public drainage system is. Next slide, Chris. So again, the presentation's purpose here is to describe what the district is doing. So President Preiner had a couple of points. You noted that lengthy line of that for Ramsey County Ditch 4, we're trying to define the alignment, cross-section profile, hydrologic structure locations, materials, dimensions, elevations, and the right-of-way of this segment or this specific ditch system. Within the presentation here and dialogue, we'll explain why the district is doing that, why it's important to define and describe what is known as the as constructed and subsequently improved condition. That goes by an acronym we use called ASIC. And that simply is to reflect what the records and the subsequent board decision is as to the system, what makes it up. We'd like to be clear to all parties that the process and to understand what we're going through. And also to define what information, public information, is pertinent to the public hearing itself. Next slide, Chris. Now on the screen, we're showing the system itself. On the north end is Lake Johanna. I'll note that the system drains north, which can be a bit odd, but it does drain in the northerly direction. The southern half of the system is primarily in a storm sewer or a piped condition. It then, in two legs, if you will, there's a western one, which is the main trunk. It's a piped system, goes through the mall there, Roseville Mall, heads to the north where it becomes open ditch and proceeds up to Oasis Pond. The eastern leg is known as Lateral 1. It is also primarily a piped storm sewer system. There is an intervening open section where it does traverse through a wetland area. They join up, continue on downstream, again flowing north, go through Little Johanna Lake, and then again terminate at Johanna. We'll turn this over to John Kolb. He can speak to the legal standard for us, please.
Madam President, members of the board, members of the public present, the legal standard for the hearing is based in statute. And the legal standard says after investigation of a drainage system record, the Drainage Authority, if it finds that the records are lost, destroyed, or otherwise incomplete, it may order the reestablishment of records. This particular proceeding dates all the way back to an instruction given to your engineer in 2017 to look at the drainage system and the drainage system records and make a recommendation as to the completeness of those records. That culminated in the preparation of a report dated January 15th, 2018 that the board considered, and based on that, the board asked for some additional information, which came to the board on September 4th of 2019. And then on September 11th, 2019, the board adopted resolution 2019-25, initiating the records reestablishment process. Your legal standard for decision today is whether or not the evidence reviewed by and presented by the engineer in the engineer's report and recommendation, which has now been updated as of November 7th, 2019, whether that reflects a weight of evidence that would describe the most likely as constructed and subsequently improved condition of the ditch, to include all of those specific items that have been reviewed both by President Preiner and by Mr. Tomczyk. You did have a informational meeting on January 30th of this year at the Roseville City Council chambers. That resulted in some additional information, which has been entered into the record. And then now, because of the pandemic, obviously we're having this hearing under unique circumstances, but additional notice was given and additional opportunity to participate was given for that reason. And so just very briefly, I'm going to run through the noticing that was given for this hearing today. You gave notice by United States Mail to the owners of property within the sub-watershed of Ramsey County Ditch number 4 on April 23rd, 2020. That was by a postcard with some additional information on commenting. You sent by email to the City of Roseville, Ramsey County, the Ramsey County Engineer, and the Ramsey County Soil and Water Conservation District the same notice on April 15th, 2020. By U.S. mail, you gave a similar notice again to City of Roseville, Ramsey County Engineer, and the Ramsey County Soil and Water Conservation District on the 16th of April. You posted the notice on the district's website on the 15th of April. You gave notice by email to everyone who has requested email notice of such proceedings to your list service on April 15th of 2020. You posted notice of the hearing at the district's office on April 16th, 2020. You provided by mail, enclosing the historical review memorandum dated November 7th, 2019 to the DNR, Board of Water and Soil Resources, and the Corps of Engineers, twice actually, once on March 11th, 2020, and again on April 16th, 2020. And then finally, you provided notice by an email attaching the historical review memorandum to the DNR Region 3 email address as requested by DNR noticing guidance. Because of the unique circumstances of this hearing, the notice of the hearing included the following statement regarding the conduct of the hearing by alternative means and indicated the means of obtaining reports and information regarding the proceedings, the means for providing written comment, and the means of alternative participation in the hearing. Specifically, the notice said, the engineer's historical review memorandum can be found online at the following website address, and it gives the Watershed District's website address for the report, or by contacting the district's office at 4325 Pheasant Ridge Drive Northeast, Suite 611 in Blaine, or by calling 763-398-3070. And then it said about comments that comments could be directed by email to Tom Schmidt at tschmidt@ricecreek.org. And I know that Ashley has been checking Tom's emails to collect up any comments received in advance of the hearing this evening. Also gave the phone number where information could be sought. And then finally, it talked about how to access the meeting. It said members of the public interested in presenting comment by telephone or video conference at the public hearing or otherwise attending the meeting telephonically are asked to contact Ashley Ritchie, giving her number, her direct line, and then also her email address, and asking that that contact be made by 4:30 on or before May 8th to be placed on a participation list. And as previously noted, we have Jennifer Marone from Arden Hills participating by telephone, or at least monitoring by telephone, and she may be called upon later to provide any comment that she may have. So that's the extent of the legal basis for initiating these proceedings, and a review of the notices that have been provided. And again, your decision standard is a weight of the evidence standard. and whether or not the evidence that has been reviewed by and presented by the engineer point to what the engineer's recommendation is as the most likely as constructed condition of the system. And subject to your questions, I'll be followed by the engineer.
Any questions for John Colton? Okay, we'll go to Chris.
Thank you. So I'll begin talking about the input relevant to the public hearing, and Manager Prine already touched on this in her opening statement. Some of the items that are pertinent to the hearing are information such as, is there missing information to define the public drainage system? Within the report, are we accurately describing the extents of the public drainage system? Is there a concern about a potential for a loss of drainage benefit? For instance, if the district were to abandon a portion of the system, and concerns or other issues associated with the public drainage system crossing your property and described by easement. And again, these are issues related to the existence of the system and not necessarily the condition of the system as it exists or with respect to its as constructed condition.
Chris?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think we heard a click on the phone, President Priner. It might be good to identify if anyone else is present.
Ashley, can you tell me if anybody else is?
Besides Jennifer on the phone line, is anybody else calling in? Jennifer, are you still there?
Yes, I am. Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, then we'll proceed. Thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
Sure. So I'll speak a little bit about the role of the Rice Creek Watershed District with respect to this drainage system. The district is the drainage authority inside of its boundary for each of the public drainage systems that were established under 103E and statutes preceding it. The drainage system should be noted that it's owned by the landowners. It's not owned by the district. The district instead administers the system on behalf of those landowners. The people that own the drainage system, those landowners, are the ones that paid for it originally or were assessed for its construction originally. As such, those lands do have a right to drain water to the ditch, and you'll note on this slide it says within reason. There are some limits to that, and some that are statutory. Assigned landowner or assessed landowner, they can request action by the drainage authority, for instance, to requesting petitioning for a repair or petitioning for other modifications of the drainage system. And again, those need to be considered by the drainage authority. As the authority for the drainage system and as a regional water management authority, the district must balance the needs of all users, including those that are along the system, the Ramsey County Ditch 4 system, and those that are downstream from the system. So in that respect, the district does wear multiple hats. The purpose of this review that occurred along the system is to reestablish the drainage records, as there are many records for the system that have become missing from the system. Most notably, there are documents for the establishment of the system from 100 years ago that are either no longer in existence or no longer available. And so we needed to do some investigative work in order to determine that alignment and profile and cross-section and right-of-way of the drainage system. And as Nick alluded to earlier, that's referred to as the as constructed and subsequently improved condition. And so that condition serves as the baseline for future maintenance. It's the baseline for determining what a repair is on the system and other potential modifications of the system, petitioned or otherwise. So the RCD4, Ramsey County Ditch 4 system, was established in 1908 by Ramsey County. As Nick alluded to earlier and showed on the map, it has a main trunk and one lateral. approximately 1.9 miles of open channel and 2.2 miles even of storm sewer. The jurisdiction for this drainage system was conveyed to the Rice Creek Watershed District in 1974. The map that I have shown on here now shows the drainage area going to the Ramsey County Ditch 4 system, shown in pink on the map. Well, you may note here that part of the drainage area is actually outside of the district boundary on the south end of this system. One thing that I'll point out on the map here, I'm showing a line on the map here in red that is the outlet for Lake Johanna. It's critical to know here that outlet for Lake Johanna is not part of the public drainage system. When the Ramsey County Ditch 4 system was originally established, the extent of the system ended just upstream or at its outlet into Johanna Lake. That outlet channel from Johanna Lake all the way down to Long Lake is not part of the public drainage system. Again, it's a system that is managed by several other entities, including landowners that are located along that ditch. It is what the district has referred to as a trunk conveyance system under its watershed plan, but the district does not have the obligations it has under state statute for its management. So it's important to know that what we're talking about here today is only those portions I have shown on the map here that are in blue and a dashed blue and black line. That is the Ramsey County Ditch 4. Another thing to note is that the area that was defined as benefiting to the system originally is actually much smaller than the drainage area that actually goes to the system, as this map indicates. The area shown in green on the map is the area that was defined to be originally benefiting from the system and that paid for the system originally back in 1908. The pink area on the map is the area that actually drains to the Ramsey County Ditch 4 system currently. This is the same map that Nick had indicated earlier, showing the extent of Ramsey County Ditch 4. Again, the upstream end of the system for the main trunk begins at Highway 36, and the upstream end of lateral 1 begins at the outlet of Zimmerman Lake. As we were going through the historic review process, we again researched a number of different records, and as we came to the conclusion of what the as constructed and subsequently improved condition was of the system, we developed maps that we have shown here. These are referred to as plan and profile drawings. The upper part of the drawing shows a bird's eye or plan view of the system, and the lower part of the drawing shows the system in profile, meaning if you took a cross section along its length, this is what it looks like with elevations. And one thing to note on these maps is that in this one in particular, you can see the pipe shown on the map in the lower part of the screen, if you can see my cursor. And then above it, there's a dashed line on the map that shows the existing surface grade on the system. This, of course, is an area with storm sewer. In other areas, you'll see that dashed line being shown as where the bottom of the existing channel is currently. The location that I'm showing here now on the screen is the portion of the main trunk that's the most upstream portion near the Rosedale Mall. You can see again that the system begins with a pipe network beginning on the south side of Highway 36, then crossing Highway 36 and continuing to the north. As we work our way further to the north, the drainage system crosses County Road C, where it begins a open channel section that continues on past Terrace Drive and into Oasis Pond. At Oasis Pond, there is a impoundment on the system that holds the water levels in Oasis Pond, and there's also a sediment basin in the pond that the district currently operates as a district facility. I'll note at this time that there is a substantial amount of sediment currently in the drainage system between Terrace Drive and County Road C, as indicated on the profile part of the drawing. Then continuing on the main trunk further to the north, is at outlets from Oasis Pond, continues through open channel section that is much steeper than the rest of the drainage system. You can see that in the lower part of the graphic here. And because of the steep slope, it is subject to erosion and in the past has been grouted, a lot of riprap along this location. It drains into and through Little Johanna Lake, and then continues on a short stretch of open channel from the outlet of Little Lake Johanna into main Lake Johanna, where the system ends. One other part of the screen that I'll point out right now is the outlet for lateral 1. We also have shown on the screen here. If I continue on to the next slide here, this shows the remainder of lateral 1, which again begins in, at the outlet of Zimmerman Lake, primarily as open channel. It goes through a wetland complex, wetland and stormwater pond complex along this lateral 1 to the south of County Road C. Then after passing County Road C and paralleling Snelling Avenue as pipe, it crosses over Snelling Avenue through additional pipe and back into the open channel toward the south end, or I should say the downstream end of Oasis Pond. So I'll talk a little bit about major modifications to the system over the years. The first of which is the construction of lateral 1. There's a little documentation on its original establishment, but we are assuming that it was constructed right around the time frame of the rest of the system in the 1907, 1908 time period. In 1951, there was an extension to this lateral 1 that created an outlet to Zimmerman Lake. And at that time, this extension was completed as essentially an improvement of lateral 1. The next modification I'll talk about is the realignment of the main trunk between County Road C and it says here County Road C2, but it's actually over toward Terrace Drive here. This area here shown on the map, if you can see on the map, there is a green line shown. This is the as designed alignment of the system. And as you can see later over the time, actually right around 1967, there was an authorized realignment of this part of the drainage system to get it in its current alignment shown in the blue segment here along the main trunk. And this now conforms roughly to property lines that are located in this segment. Another modification occurred in 1971. Prior to 1971, the system actually extended further south from Highway 36, as shown in the purple line on this map. But in 1971, this portion of the map was of this alignment was abandoned between County Road B and Highway 36. As we're going through our determination of the as constructed condition of the drainage system, we also determined where the right-of-way of the drainage system is. And functionally, this is the area that the county paid damages for to the landowners when the drainage system was really originally constructed for the disruption of the land along that its original construction and for subsequent maintenance that has occurred along the system. The extent of the damages are what we would consider to be the right-of-way of the drainage system. We don't have existing documentation indicating specifically what this footprint was used in paying damages. However, we are able to, through our forensic information engineering judgment, determine what the width was that was needed in order to construct it, to reasonably construct it back in that time, and also consider the footprint that is reasonably needed in order to continue to have inspection and maintenance along the drainage system. And that's what we determined to be the right-of-way. And we determined various widths along the drainage system as shown in these follow-up maps that are included in our report. We have them color-coded by the amount of width that of right-of-way needed along the drainage system. And this width does vary as you go along the drainage system, depending on how deep the drainage system is and whether or not it's enclosed within a pipe. And these have been mapped, and we have indicated property ownership along the way that is traversed by the right-of-way of the drainage system. Talk just very briefly about the condition of the system. Some other things to note. I had already mentioned earlier that Oasis Pond Outlet was constructed as an impoundment on the system. It was installed roughly in the early 1980s. The district did complete a maintenance project in 2010 to remove some accumulated sediment in that sediment basin and to repair the dam itself. Other problem areas that we're aware of, the channel that I showed earlier, where there was a realignment between County Road C and Terrace Drive. In this section, there's a substantial amount of debris and trash, a lot of sediment that has occurred, some blowouts that have occurred along this part of the system. Other areas that we're aware of that have problematic conditions are a section that I had mentioned earlier that was a steeper section of the ditch where grouted riprap has been placed. In many locations along this area, the grouted riprap is beginning to fail. And we also have noted that there are several areas over by the Rosedale Mall area and Fairview Avenue that are subject to street flooding and along storm sewer segments. This has been confirmed both with modeling that we have completed and firsthand accounts by members of the city. I'll talk a little bit about long-term management of this system. The Watershed District does inspect and will continue to inspect along the drainage system and address isolated issues. This is part of its required management of the system. There are open channel ditch portions of the system that likely require extensive repair in the future. This repair has been budgeted in the Watershed District's Watershed Management Plan, and we do anticipate that additional engagement will be needed with landowners and the public prior to any decisions related to future repairs. And again, the purpose of this meeting is not to talk about those repairs, but it seems timely to mention this so that landowners are aware that there will be further engagement occurring as the district moves forward with its management. Next, we recommend that the board consider a findings in order to correct the drainage system record to reflect the existing alignment and cross-section as identified in our engineer's report that was dated November 7th, 2019. And again, we recommend that there be continued routine inspection and maintenance along the system. And with that, I can address any comments that the board may have at this time.
Any comments from the board? Hearing none. Chris? Okay, we've heard from everybody. Excuse me. So now we can go to, with that, we're ready to hear from the members of the public who wish to comment. Before we take public comment by those participating remotely, I ask that any written comments be read into the record at this time. Are there any written comments to be read into the record? Oh, yep.
Madam President, yes, the district has received written comments from MnDOT, and I can speak to those right now. Actually, what I'll do here is I'm going to get out of the presentation here. I have created a comment sheet from the DOT. These are comments that were received from Beth Neuendorf, a professional engineer, in an email dated May 6, 2020 to the Rice Creek District. And I do have responses to the comments that staff have prepared. And again, this, if there are any concerns or questions regarding these comments from the board, certainly chime in as I'm going through here. The first comment is regarding page 9, map 2. This map indicates that RCD4 is abandoned south of Trunk Highway 36, but the map on page 18, figure 2 shows the as designated alignment and current alignment continuing south of Trunk Highway 36. Will the section south of Trunk Highway 36 be reestablished? If not, can the length of the as designated alignment and current alignment of RCD4 south of Trunk Highway 36 be adjusted, or a note be added to page 18, figure 2? Or does the city of Roseville own the whole portion south of Trunk Highway 36? For that one, our recommended response would be that the portions of RC4 south of Trunk Highway 36 were abandoned by Ramsey County in 1971. The abandoned portions of the system exist as indicated in alignment on figure 2, but are the responsibility of the city of Roseville and or other road authorities traversed by the storm sewer. The extent of the RCD4 public drainage system are indicated on figures 4 through 8. These figures indicate the extent of the public drainage system ending at Trunk Highway 36. Next comment from MnDOT is regarding page 18, figure 2, main trunk. The current main trunk alignment of RCD4 crosses Trunk Highway 36 perpendicular to the highway in a 42-inch RCP, that would be a reinforced concrete pipe, approximately 15 feet below ground. The as designated alignment crosses Trunk Highway 36 at an angle. The ASIC, or as constructed subsequently improved condition profile, was based on the existing profile, correct? Can there be some mention in this report that the current alignment will not be adjusted as this section is currently in storm sewer and the alignment was based on the in-ground condition? Staff response to this is the ASIC profile is based on the existing alignment, which in turn is a component of the ASIC. A deviation from the current alignment would require a separate drainage proceedings. The third comment from MnDOT, page 18, figure 2, lateral 1. There is not an as designated alignment for lateral 1. Is it the same as the current alignment? RCD4 crosses Trunk Highway 51 south of Terrace Road in a 54-inch RCP that is approximately 18 feet below ground. Is the ASIC profile the same as the existing profile? And the staff response to that comment is no historical documentation regarding the originally established alignment of lateral 1 is available. The extents of the ASIC alignment are based on a 1971 plan reconstructing the entire lateral. The ASIC profile and alignment are the same as the existing profile and alignment. And then the fourth and final comment from MnDOT regarding appendix right-of-way maps. There is no PIN number for the section of RCD4 on MnDOT right-of-way because it is highway right-of-way. Can a sentence be added to the section to that effect? The map for the section of RCD4 lateral 1 along and crossing Trunk Highway 51 shows that the 54-inch RCP is in 55-foot and 40 to 45 feet of right-of-way, and where the main trunk of RCD4 crosses Trunk Highway 36 in 50 feet of right-of-way. Isn't the whole pipe on MnDOT right-of-way in those areas? And staff response to that comment is the maps in the appendix are depicting the right-of-way of the public drainage system. The purpose of these maps is to indicate existing encumbrances on private properties based on the footprint of the drainage system and the area reasonably necessary to complete inspection and maintenance on the system. The right-of-way does overlap the public road right-of-way in some locations. The district recognizes that substantial coordination with the road authority is necessary should a repair be required in these locations. And that's the extent of the comments received.
That's the only comments. Okay, right into the record. Okay. Well, at this time, I think we'll go ahead with listening to the members of the public. They're participating remotely, and they were asked to identify themselves before the hearing. However, I believe we had one more person come in. Fred Fox?
Yes.
Okay, just want to identify. Okay, so if anybody would like to comment, you will be recognized from the list of commenters provided by the staff. When I call your name, please unmute your microphones, please speak clearly and state your name and address for the record, and then make your comment. If you have a specific question concerning the proposed reestablishment and correction of the public drainage system record, we may ask the administrator, engineer, or legal counsel to respond. If you have anything in writing you wish to submit, you may contact the district office and make arrangements for the delivery. Okay, well, Jennifer, would you like to speak at this time? Jennifer Maroon?
Yes, I do have a question. I do understand being a resident at 3156 Shorewood Drive with lake frontage for Little Johanna. I recognize what you described very well about the Little Johanna not being part of the drainage ditch, if you will. Totally get that, and I might add that I think the group has done tremendous work in, compiling all this historic information. I very much appreciate it. It helps me understand where myself as a homeowner on Little Lake Johanna, I've always assumed up until very recently we were indeed part of the watershed, but now with this description, I more thoroughly understand where we fit in the big scheme of things. My question relates to, and perhaps even an opinion you guys might be able to offer in the way of opportunities for interaction with the DNR as potential changes are made to the ditch, and the sharing of information that does or does not occur between you and the DNR. Can you comment on that?
Can we comment on that? Who would be the best, Mr. Cole or Mr. Adonis?
Madam President, I can comment real quickly on that. One thing just to clarify is that the RCD4 system does go all the way through Little Lake Johanna and all the way through its outlet into Lake Johanna, and the end of the system is at where it empties into Lake Johanna. Just make sure that that is clear on the record.
Okay.
Certainly there is the potential for having discussion and collaboration with the DNR. The DNR does have authorities over public waters, which Little Lake Johanna would be considered a public water. I don't know if there are any specific areas that the districts had discussions with the DNR regarding its management, but certainly anything that is done as far as work related to Little Lake Johanna would likely require some DNR engagement with it.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it. One item that of concern, which you did talk about earlier too, was the riprap that was smooched together there, and the erosion that has occurred with the deterioration of that riprap, and clearly that, well, I shouldn't say clearly, but perhaps that would be part of any kinds of mitigation efforts overall. I would hope.
Okay. Anything to add to that?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Mr. Fred Fox, please name and address for the record if you'd like to speak.
I actually don't need to speak, but my name is Frederick Fox. Address is 3168 Shorewood Drive. The back channel of our property is the ditch between Little Johanna and Johanna. We've lived in this house since 1983. I would say the ditch has probably doubled in width in that period of time, and it's gotten a lot shallower. And I'm wondering how this meeting relates to what's going to happen with the ditch. Are they just going to change it so that the new distance cross is now considered an appropriate distance? Are they thinking about making changes to the ditch? I said, I just got it. I don't have any questions. I just tuned in to see if I could learn something about it.
Okay, well, thank you for doing that. Maybe we can address that. Chris, maybe?
Yeah, Madam President, yeah, it's a very good question. At this time, this public hearing is specifically about identifying where the extent of the drainage system is.
Right.
I would anticipate at a future step when the district is getting more prepared in its time frame for engaging in a repair on the system. The typical approach is to begin with a repair report on the system, which would indicate where the deficiencies are and what the recommended repairs might be in order to correct those deficiencies. And it'd be at that time that we would potentially be identifying work that would be located on that particular stretch of the drainage system. And we would come up with a recommendation for how to repair and address those deficiencies that you've been noting since you've been living there along the drainage system. And then once that is completed, then the board would likely have a public hearing prior to entering into any sort of construction related to those findings along the drainage system.
Any further questions on that? Okay.
I'll just listen.
Okay. I think, well, here, is there anybody else out there that we haven't identified for any testimony?
Is there anybody on the phone line that would like to speak?
Okay, hearing none, we're going to close the public comment portion of the hearing.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, so now we have some action to complete. Mr. Cole, would you like to refresh the board's memory of what the options are here?
Madam President, members of the board, again, if you feel that the evidence reviewed by and presented by the engineer represent the weight of evidence indicating or supporting his recommendation of the as constructed and subsequently improved condition, you may adopt that. However, the staff is recommending, because of the unique nature of the hearing today, that you do a couple things just to make sure that we have our ducks in a row and that we've given the public adequate opportunity to review and participate. So our recommendation is that you leave the period for written comment open through close of business on May 15th, that's this coming Friday, so that anyone who had intention of participating tonight but for whatever reason could not attend, but has had a chance to review the materials that were made available to them will have an opportunity to put in any written comment they want. And then finally, that you continue the hearing to your regular meeting on May 27th, 2020, in order to allow staff, based on the comments presented and the totality of the record presented to the board, may prepare findings and an order. And again, it's the staff's recommendation that you do adopt the engineer's report and adopt his recommended as constructed subsequently improved condition of the ditch to include the alignment, the grade, the dimension, and then all of the hydraulic considerations for any crossings or culverts, as well as the right of way or that area immediately adjacent to the ditch that's reasonably necessary to perform your statutory functions of inspection and maintenance. We have prepared a resolution or a motion for one of the board members to consider if they want to move that forward. Missing from what we provided were those two dates, one being the date for the written comment, again, close of business on May 15th, and then for the continued hearing on May 27th, which would be at your regular meeting time, and then at a point on your agenda where it would be appropriate.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes.
this is Manager Wynett. I move that we would direct the staff to prepare findings and order consistent with the proceedings, including response to all comments received through the public comment process. That the draft findings and order be written to effect the reestablishment and correction of the public drainage system records consistent with the engineer's findings. direct recording of the order to reflect the reestablishment and correction of the public drainage system record. That we leave the comment period open for the receipt of written comments as indicated in the hearing notice through the close of business at 4:30 p.m. on May 15th, 2020. And that we recess this hearing to the board's regular meeting on May 27th, 2020 at 9 a.m. or by adjournment to an appropriate time on the board's agenda, at which meeting we will consider findings and order for proposed reestablishment and correction of the public drainage system records.
Okay. Need a second? Where is everybody? I need a second.
Manager Wagaman, second. Had my mute on, sorry.
This is Bradley. I seconded it also, but my mute was on.
Nobody's talking.
Yeah, we're both delinquents.
I have a motion as read by Manager Wynant and seconded by Manager Wegman. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? Okay, we will go by a roll call. Manager Waller.
Yay!
Manager Wynant.
Yes.
Manager Bradley.
Yes.
Manager Wegman.
Yes.
And Manager Preiner, yes. Motion passes. Okay, we're done. Make a motion to adjourn our meeting. We're recessing to the next regular board meeting. Anything else?
See you Wednesday.
All right, Wednesday morning. Thank you.
Thank you much.
Yep.
I guess.
Good
Good
night.
night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.